There's an open civil war going on right now inside one of the West Coast's largest lefty political consulting groups. And now that their intramural fight has actually moved to federal court for a Chapter 11 bankruptcy process, we actually get to learn a lot more about how the ugly sausage of leftist public policy and political consulting really works. Now, we're talking about Strategies 360, which was founded by a lefty Democrat named Ron Datzauer and his former partner, Eric Sorenson. Datzauer actually founded the consulting group, and he made his reputation by successfully running the political campaign for the first of just a long and unfortunately destructive streak of Democrat governors in Washington state, with the election of Booth Gardner originally in 1984. He also brags about removing Slade Gorton from the federal Senate in 2000 when he helped Maria Cantwell occupy that seat and then plague our state and the nation to this day. There were many controversies at the time about exactly how close Datzauer actually really was to Maria Cantwell, but that's really a story best saved for another time. Strategies 360 has actually been involved in helping a lot of leftists in our state and surrounding states kind of cling to power or acquire it, or more significantly, they've actually impacted political races and campaigns from Alaska to Idaho to California and even across the border in British Columbia. And they've actually they've been really a significant player in the West Coast political world for several decades now. However, just with all of this political success behind them, why are they in federal bankruptcy court? Well, the answer is actually pretty simple, and it is a problem that often pops up in the political consulting world. Both Datzauer and Sorenson, they were partners in Strategies 360 for many years. However, they had some disagreements, and Datzauer wanted to kind of pay off Sorenson, or more accurately, I think Sorenson was forcing Datzauer to pay him off and get him out of the political fight. Now, they were in state court for a while just arguing about the details, but essentially they appear to have valued this consulting company enough that Sorenson wanted his $6 million payoff a lot quicker than Datzauer apparently was willing to pay it. So, to complicate matters even more, once the two partners decided to fight about it, KeyBank appeared to demand payment on another $3.6 million line of credit. Employees started leaving and, of course, starting their own firms, and the ensuing drama has now led them to federal bankruptcy court just last week. Now, this is not a Chapter 7 liquidation situation, which an increasing percentage of Americans are experiencing now as this COVID relief money, kind of the printing machine, that runs out. And, of course, Chapter 7 filings have increased by over 16% just over last year as people kind of get to experience Bidenomics firsthand. Chapter 11 filings, which is an option for businesses that face insolvency but which kind of hope to restructure in a way to survive, they're actually decreasing right now, but this Strategies 360 Chapter 11 filing is going to really provide just a lot of information about how a political consulting organization really operates. And this is because all bankruptcy filings are public information. Anyone can actually see this information, and a Chapter 11 filing means this consulting crew will need to keep filing regular reports, providing more and more details about where all that cash comes from and, of course, where it goes. Now, this is why Jim Brunner at the Seattle Times here, he's just doing some accidental journalism, reporting on these public records and what kind of this behind-the-curtains information that they truly expose. You may also see articles in The Observer as former Strategies 360 employee Paul Query documents the downfall quite a bit. I actually enjoyed the quote from Paul in his recent article where he described working at Strategies 360 like this. From 2011, and this is the quote, from 2011 to 2019, I was vice president of communications for Strategies 360, which involved a handsome paycheck and a lot of fine food and top-shelf booze on somebody else's tab. Now, I actually appreciated that disclaimer because it does shed a small light, a little bit about the truth, especially about political consulting, which unfortunately often consists of squandering other people's money with wasteful and elaborate spending on an unsustainable lifestyle. But of course, who really cares because it isn't your money? So, of course, this is essentially how today's modern government bureaucracy operates, using your taxpayer dollars as well. And the politicians who kind of help pass the legislation and the bills that keep the gravy train going They all need people just like this guy and Strategies 360 crew to keep that cash flowing. Now, as much as it will be interesting to see the future Chapter 11 bankruptcy filings, the truth is that an organization like this really starts to fall apart when essentially all they are is a consulting group. So as their more productive employees start to jump ship, it seems likely that even if they survive this intramural legal fight over the money, they're really unlikely to emerge stronger than they went in. It also isn't clear that Datzauer can actually keep paying himself the fat paychecks that he's been extracting, and I'm really not sure the firm's going to be able to keep paying those fancy yacht fees either. Now, $10 million for a debt restructuring problem is actually enough cash that even for a leftist and a left-leaning consultant group, this is actually real money. It may be pocket change compared to the cash that's squandered by the horrible political clowns who they kind of help get elected to office, but it's rare, really, that we get to see behind the curtains and verify that the sordid stories of cash piles and extravagant spending, those really aren't exaggerated. In the end, regardless of how leftists want to pretend to care about their causes, when it comes to themselves, they're always about the money, and they can certainly justify fighting over it because I'm sure everyone believes that they deserve their pile of that cash. Now, I'll point out that Sorenson seems to be aware that Datzauer is trying to extract as much cash as he can from Strategies 360, the business. And there's a real risk that the consulting firm goes down in flames in an effort to avoid paying the money that he's owed. Now, this is also why Sorenson apparently is coming after Datzauer personally, and this legal blood feud is far from over. I expect the insiders will be poring over these Chapter 11 filings and other court filings for the next few months, maybe even years, and these types of stories don't tend to get prettier. And it's hard to look away when you're witnessing a train wreck, even one like this. Now, I know what you're thinking. Why should anybody care about a group of greedy, vengeful, and litigious leftists kind of arguing over who gets the bigger pile of cash? And that's a good question. And here's why I think it matters to everyone, and not just these leftists who want to get their cash out. Our political class gets to power somehow. I mean, the more you get to know them, the more obvious it becomes that our political class, these guys right here, they didn't get into these positions of political government power because that they're smart or even marginally capable. Most of them clearly are not. However, there are smart and capable people who help get these guys, these politicos, into these positions of power. And they aren't doing this for free. The cash flow and the money that gets diverted into their pockets, it's massive. And it's only growing right now, I think, as the opportunity to divert more of your cash, your tax cash, really, into special interest gravy trains. It only grows bigger by the year. Now, I've said this for years, and I'm hardly alone in recognizing this reality. And I realize that I'm just restating the obvious here. But these court filings are worth reviewing for sure. Keep in mind, I expect that there may be some discoveries about unreported sources of cash that clearly violate campaign finance laws. Regular viewers know that I've caught hundreds of local politicians and PACs who break these laws regularly, including some of Strategies 360 clients. So perhaps these Chapter 11 filings will help me catch more. I mean, who knows? Of course, these guys don't really care about any consequences from Washington State's Public Disclosure Commission, because, as Paul Query helpfully quoted one of his former colleagues at Strategies 360, quote, "There is no such thing as PDC Jail," unquote. And yeah, basically, that just means that these guys don't really care if they get caught breaking the law, because the PDC probably won't enforce it on them anyway, at least not harshly. And even if they did, they're leftists, right? So they're just going to get away with it. It isn't like Ferguson here is really going to do anything about it. However, the death match over the carcass of another leftist consulting company is really worth watching, both to see who wins and how they divide the spoils. However, this also requires you to pay attention, get the source documents, and then see for yourself. I believe the future belongs to those willing to do the work and actually show up, because in the end, the future really does belong to those who show up.